Friends, mustard cake fertilizer, that is, the manure derived from mustard oil cake, is extremely beneficial for all your plants, whether they are vegetable-bearing, fruit-bearing, or flowering varieties. However, if you do not use it with caution, it can cause more harm than good to your plants. Therefore, in today's video, I will discuss 7 to 8 common mistakes or precautions that you must keep in mind while preparing and applying mustard cake fertilizer, ensuring your plants receive maximum benefit without suffering any damage. The first mistake people often make is failing to prepare and apply the mustard cake in the correct quantity and ratio. This oversight leads to significant damage to the plants, preventing them from deriving any benefit whatsoever from the application. Due to a lack of knowledge or simply because it is an inexpensive fertilizer, people often prepare it in a highly concentrated, thick form. If such a concentrated mustard cake fertilizer is applied to plants, meaning the dosage is excessive, the plant's roots gradually burn and the plant itself begins to wither away. Therefore, the very first step is to ensure you follow the correct ratio when preparing it. Whenever you set out to make mustard cake fertilizer, for instance, if you wish to prepare a small batch of 50 grams, you should soak that 50 grams of cake in 1 liter of water. Similarly, for 100 grams of mustard cake, you should soak it in 2 liters of water. If you wish to prepare a larger quantity, say, 250 grams of mustard cake, you should soak it in 5 liters of water. People often fail to use the correct water-to-cake ratio at the initial soaking stage. This results in the fertilizer becoming either excessively thick or, conversely, too diluted later on. Consequently, if it turns out too thick, it causes damage to the plants. If the consistency becomes too thin, the plants fail to derive any nutritional benefit from it. Now, the second major mistake people make is failing to allow the fertilizer to ferment properly. That is, they do not let the manure. If you wish to maximize the benefits that mustard cake fertilizer provides to your plants, it is absolutely crucial to ferment it correctly and for the appropriate duration. Only then does the microbial count within it increase, meaning the fertilizer fully decomposes and ferments properly, ultimately allowing the plant to reap its full benefits. Many gardeners or individuals may advise you to simply soak the mustard cake in water for 24 hours and then use it immediately. However, mustard cake fertilizer never fully ferments and becomes ready for use within just 24 hours. If you use the fertilizer after only 24 hours, it won't cause any harm to the plant, but it also won't deliver its full potential benefits. Therefore, whenever you prepare fertilizer from mustard cake, if you are doing so during the summer, you should leave it soaking in water for 3 to 4 days. That is, allow it to ferment thoroughly for that period. Conversely, if you are preparing it during the winter, the fermentation process, the process by which the fertilizer matures, slows down significantly. Consequently, during the winter, you should allow it to ferment thoroughly for at least 5 to 7 days. Once the fertilizer has fermented properly and for the correct duration, it becomes fully enriched with beneficial microorganisms, and its nutrients are thoroughly integrated into the mixture. When you subsequently apply this fertilizer to your plants, they receive an immensely greater level of benefit. In contrast, if you were to use it after soaking it for merely 24 hours, yielding perhaps only 10% to 20% of its potential benefit, fermenting it for the correct duration allows you to harness 100% to 150% of its full potential. The third major mistake people often make is that when they initiate the process, that is, when they set the mustard cake to soak, they mix it just once at the very beginning and then fail to mix it again. To ensure the mustard cake fertilizer develops and ferments correctly, it is absolutely essential to stir or mix it periodically throughout the process. Therefore, for the entire duration that you leave it to mature, or ferment. For as long as you keep the mixture, you must ensure that you mix it thoroughly at least twice a day. Mixing offers significant benefits. For instance, it encourages the multiplication of beneficial bacteria, meaning the bacterial population increases. While mixing it 3 to 4 times a day would be even more ideal, you should strictly aim to mix it at least twice. You can perform this mixing thoroughly using your hands or with the aid of a wooden stick or similar tool. The correct technique for mixing involves stirring it once in a clockwise direction and then once in an anti-clockwise direction. Specifically, you should stir it in the forward direction for 20 to 30 seconds, and then stir it in the reverse direction for another 20 to 30 seconds. Friends, the information I am sharing with you here, these specific techniques and tricks, can only be provided by someone who truly understands the correct method for preparing organic fertilizer. Mixing in this manner, alternating between clockwise and anti-clockwise directions, activates the bacteria more effectively, resulting in a much higher rate of multiplication. Now, regarding the fourth mistake that people commonly make. Once the mustard cake mixture is ready, they fail to incorporate the correct ratio of water. Consequently, they often end up using a mixture that is far too thick. People often make the mixture too diluted. This not only renders it ineffective but can also cause harm. Furthermore, they often fail to consider that the ideal dilution ratio for using this fertilizer differs between summer and winter. Specifically, if you are using it during the winter, you should mix 1 part mustard cake with 10 parts water. Mustard cake is naturally a mildly warm fertilizer. Therefore, during the cold season, a 1:10 ratio, 1 part mustard cake to 10 parts water, is absolutely perfect for application. This is because winter temperatures are low, and consequently, the temperature of the soil itself remains quite low as well. The mistake people often make is applying the exact same quantity and concentration in the summer as they did in the winter. This results in the plant receiving no benefit. On the contrary, the plant's roots begin to burn. Mustard cake is a highly effective and easily utilized fertilizer during the summer months as well. However, when using it during the summer, you must prepare it as a very thin or light consistency liquid solution before applying it to your plants. Next, it is crucial to pay close attention to the dosage. For instance, in a pot measuring 8 to 10 inches or smaller, you should not apply more than 50 milliliters of this liquid fertilizer. For flowering plants, even in pots up to 12 inches in size, you should limit the application to 50 milliliters of this liquid fertilizer. For pots ranging from 14 to 16 inches, you may use 100 milliliters. For vegetable plants, use approximately 50 milliliters in pots up to 10 inches in size, and for larger pots, you may use 100 milliliters. If the plant is large, for example, planted in a 14 to 16 inch or 18 to 20 inch pot, you can apply 150 to 200 milliliters of this liquid fertilizer. For large vining vegetables, such as vines that are already 1 to 1.5 months old, you may apply 150 to 200 milliliters of the mustard cake solution. You can utilize mustard cake as a fertilizer. While using mustard cake in moist soil generally causes no significant harm, the most ideal condition for its application is to stop watering the soil 1 day prior to applying the fertilizer. Once applied, if the soil is extremely dry, you may water it immediately. Otherwise, you should wait until 1 day after application to water the plant. Another common mistake people make is applying this fertilizer too frequently. Since it is inexpensive, people often assume that using larger quantities will yield greater benefits. However, mustard cake acts as a slow-release fertilizer. This means it takes approximately 15 days after application for the nutrients to become available to the plant and for the fertilizer to begin functioning effectively. Therefore, you should not repeat the application too frequently. Ideally, maintain a minimum interval of 15 days between successive applications of this fertilizer to a plant. Furthermore, you must exercise extreme caution never to spray the liquid mustard cake fertilizer directly onto the plant, even by mistake. Doing so carries a very high risk of burning the leaves or causing the entire plant to wither and die. Consequently, whenever you apply this fertilizer, ensure you gently lift or move the leaves aside with your hand before applying the fertilizer directly to the roots, thereby preventing any particles or splashes from landing on the leaves and causing damage to the plant. Finally, exercise one more precaution. Do not store the prepared fertilizer mixture for an extended period. It should be utilized within 2 to 3 days of preparation. Otherwise, the fertilizer will become excessively acidic, causing harm to your plants or soil rather than providing any benefit. So, friends, these were about 7 to 8 common mistakes or precautions that you should keep in mind while preparing and using mustard cake fertilizer, ensuring that your plants derive maximum benefit without suffering any adverse effects. I hope you found today's video useful. If you liked this information, please, I urge you, like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Finally, thank you for watching.